The year is 2025. China is a rising empire. Drone swarms fill the modern battle space and dominate it. And there's such a strong distrust in government that people would rather look to social media political reactionaries than their own politicians. I'm not talking about real life, I'm talking about Call of Duty Black Ops 2, of course. I'm glad none of that stuff happened in real life. Didn't happen in real life, right?
Hostile lightning strike inbound.
Go. Clear.
Bathroom clear. Bedroom clear.
Safety's on.
All units stand down. It's just the old man.
Roger.
Nobody wants to see that gun. We want to see the M16A2.
Frank, this isn't Panama anymore. We're not doing retro. We're not doing Ron Jeremy jokes in 2025.
Panama.
The future is now. PDWs like this are what's going to dominate the channel this year.
Just bring back the M81 and M16. Nobody cares about the Vector, kid. I know what I'm telling you.
Frank, you gotta let the past go, man.
That gun was obsolete the moment it hit the market. How come nobody uses it in 2025, huh?
I don't know, I just thought it was cool. There's two things that Call of Duty Black Ops 2 got wrong, however. A woman president, and that the Vector was going to be relevant and not obsolete in the year 2025. This is the submachine gun of the future. According to Call of Duty Black Ops 2, they kind of got it wrong, all right? We're gonna say Black Ops 2 got most things wrong. They got some things right as well. The Vector was not one of those things. Kind of something different on the channel, but because it's 2025, because of Black Ops 2, felt like I had to get that futuristic, so to speak, looking gun on the channel.
Before we continue talking about obsolete SMGs, we have to talk about the real future of the firearm space, and that is companies like HamiPrints.com, the sponsor of the video. With over 2,000 products made in the USA, Hami is sure to have something to fit your needs, whether it be a kill flash, light covers, wall mounts for common walls such as pegboard and wall control, or a simple stand to display your prized possessions. Hami has got you covered. He will also raise your cheeks with his cheek riser, so go check him out and say thanks.
If you see somebody running like a Vector, like unironically as like their main setup, you know, like this is my home defense rifle or carbine or whatever, PW. Like this is what I use right here. This is what they're gonna operate with. I think it's kind of like a mall ninja style weapon, but when it comes to just a range toy and a cool novelty item, I actually do think it's pretty neat at the same time. Is that possible? Is it possible for a gun to be fun and a cool range LARPing weapon, but you also think it's a meme? I think so. Reminds me of the late 2000s, early 2010s style of firearm design where they thought the future was now. You got like Richard I think his name was Richard Makowitz.
I'm Mac, and this is Future Weapons.
And he was like, Makowitz, future weapons. And he was like, the Magpul, Masada. And then he's like, drone warfare will dominate the future. And it was like a giant, you know, drone rolling down the street. I wish that he was alive today so he could see the way that the future warfare actually played out. But let's talk about the actual parts of it, the manual of arms. For those that don't know, many of you already know about the Vector. You've seen a million videos on the Vector already, but those that don't know, that may be new to it, I will talk about it a little bit. So this is a brace, and this is actually a Kriss branded brace, and it's actually I think it's one of the better looking braces out there on the market. I would not mind running this. This is not my gun. A friend of mine by the name of Taylor, thank you Taylor. Everyone say thank you Taylor in the comments. He loaned me this gun for the video, so big thanks to him. If I did have a Vector and I had a brace on it, I would not be sad running it because I think it is one of the cooler looking braces. Obviously, it still has the goofy, rubbery, you know, thickness back here that's present on so many of the braces, but I think it looks fine. It does rotate. I don't know if that's supposed to be that way, but it will pivot. I guess so you can, if you actually use this thing like a brace, you put your arm through this, you could like, you're like a robot man. You could like rotate it. Ambidextrous controls. Now the ergonomics on this thing are kind of terrible. The safety is ambidextrous. It's not as crisp as I'd like it to be, but you know, it is one of the safeties of all time. Thing I noticed off the bat, a little comfortable on this portion because it kind of rubs your, the top portion of your thumb here. So it was kind of like rubbing it a little raw, but it's okay, we powered through it. The flat range was saved. Most of the stuff is not ambidextrous. So you got your mag release here, press that, mag comes out. Magazines are kind of interesting. It takes Glock mags by default, and the shortest magazines it takes are the Glock 17 mags. It will not take 15 round mag, or I'm sorry, yeah, 15 round mag Glock 19 mags, anything shorter, and the 17 it won't take, so it won't do it. And then of course the long 10 round magazines look the best in my opinion. But if you're in a band state, you can run it with little Glock 17 10 rounders and keeps it nice and low profile. So as far as the rest of the controls go, you got your bolt release here, bolt catch, bolt release. You have your charging handle on this side. And what's cool about the charging handle is when you put it to the 90-degree point, can you see that? Chad, are we picking that up? When you move it to the 90-degree point, it does like a little press check. So we'll see if we can get this in there. I got the monitor now so I can see myself. It's very nice. So it moves the bolt ever so slightly back so you can check if there's grass in there. That's pretty cool. And then you can also, when you charge this thing, with one hand you can actuate the bolt catch. So just with one finger, you can pull this thing back and then hit that at the same time, and then we'll lock the bolt to the rear. And then of course the bolt release on that side. So it will lock as well with a magazine inside. I'm just like twisting all over the place. It will lock as well, and you can do that. Things I don't like about it, when I'm gripping the gun to shoot it, I naturally want to grab it right here. So I'm like pulling it in. But the problem with that is you will palm the bolt release. So when you go to fire, it will lock the bolt to the rear. I noticed that, and it kind of forces you to grip it either like up here over the charging handle or down here, you know, early 2000s style. And I'm not a huge fan of that. If I had a grip right here, that would be much preferred. And then of course you also don't want to like over grip the gun and put your finger over the barrel when you go to shoot. So it's like, whoops, boom. Don't be dumb, all right? When you go out there and you're shooting, don't be trying to go for speed and it's the first time you've ever held this gun and you go and you overextend and you cover the barrel and you have little oopsie daisies, all right? We call that, where I'm from, we call that little oopsie daisies. So as far as like straight blowback guns usually go, the mass of the bolt, so basically, you know, that the hammer falls, hits the primer, that round goes out the barrel, and then the pressures are pushed on that casing, and the bolts are usually heavy enough to contain the pressure of whatever cartridge they're firing so that they don't move rearward until the pressures fall to a safe enough level, and then the bolt will go back. And so basically the weight of the bolt is dependent on the pressure of the round that's being fired. Have a little bit of the felt recoil from any gun really, because there's usually a spring, like let's say for an AR example, that's not a straight blowback gun, that's direct impingement, or you got a spring back here, you got the bolt carrier, and it would move back. A little bit of that felt recoil is gonna come from the reciprocating mass of the bolt because you have a piece of metal with a spring going back and forth. So you're feeling a little bit of the buffer moving. With this, you're not gonna feel that because it's a different kind of design. There's a track in here, and I'll show you guys this in a little bit. There's a track in here where the bolt, so the bolt's here, when the gun fires, the spring takes it down here and then it comes back up. So instead of that bolt moving rearward, going back and forth, so the gun moving like this, the bolt is moving down. So it's like, it's jumping a little bit. So it kind of naturally helps to fight muzzle climb. I think that it's overstated. Kriss is like, oh, the gun won't move because the way that the recoil system works, it's like perfectly still. If I shot this on full auto, I'd be able to tell you that. But only shooting it on semi-automatic, it doesn't feel like it's eliminating recoil. It just feels like it's just a different recoil impulse. So instead of the gun, like I said, going like this, it's more like going like that. So it is pretty controllable and it's fun. I think it's better than like say a normal AR9, where those sometimes can be even a little bit harsher on the recoil than like a normal 5.56, just because it's just all blowback. It's a straight blowback, so it can be a little bit heavier, whereas this is not that way. Now, Black Ops 2 had a lot of different guns that they thought, you know, how old was I? I was 14 when the game came out, and they had a lot of different guns in there that were like futuristic looking. And really what they were guns that were making their appearance on the scene in the early 2010s. They were kind of entering the gun industry, and people thought that they were gonna be maybe something more significant in the future. Maybe they thought that they would get more military contracts, or that they would be relevant, you know, 13 years later. And that didn't really play out for the most of the guns in Call of Duty Black Ops. You know, things like the Scorpion, things like the Vector, they don't have military contracts in our military. Now, the Vector is actually used in Indonesia, Panama, and Bangladesh. Those are the countries that actually use it for their militaries. But as far as in the United States, I couldn't find any like places or any units that use a Vector or Scorpion or any of those other guns that Black Ops had the US using. The M27 is kind of interesting though, because in the game, we're going on a side tangent here, but the M27 is named incorrectly because it's actually modeled after a 416. But it also makes sense because you play as the Navy most of the time in the game, and the Navy does use 416s, but also the name M27, the Marines use the M27 in 2025. They're fielding that in large numbers. So They kind of got that gun right. So they had little things that were right, little things that are wrong. And I think that the biggest thing they nailed would be like that drone warfare. That was kind of interesting to see so long ago. I remember thinking back then when the game came out, watching that trailer where it was like the future of warfare.
I don't think the average American grasps how violent war is about to become.
And they were talking about drones and hacking and all this kind of stuff, and I thought that it was pretty far-fetched. The way that Black Ops 2 looks, I think it looks far-fetched. It doesn't really look as futuristic in real life as it did in the game, but they nailed some of the like drone warfare, swarms.
So on the horizon in Ukraine is the use of swarming drones, groups of AI-powered UAVs linked together, launching simultaneous attacks.
So you can have a swarm will fly over an area, detect the number of targets, and then decide amongst itself how many drones need to attack which targets, while other drones circle around waiting to see the results of that and carry out follow-on attacks.
These are things that back in 2012, at least I wasn't really thinking about. Obviously I was 14, so I was a kid still, but I wasn't thinking about like, oh, drone. In 2025, there really are gonna be drones that are blowing people up. They're just flying down and killing people. And in 2025, in 2022 and 3, I think that's when the war started. You know, those things were reality, which is pretty scary to think about, but they did get that aspect of it, right? But as far as this gun goes, it's a cool novelty, and honestly, I would not mind owning one of these simply for the novelty, because it is kind of a unique gun. It scratches the not shooting an AR itch. People ask, like, why couldn't you do a 5.56 in a package like this? Like, just make the mag well bigger, make the barrel bigger, whatever. Scale it up to shoot 5.56. You know, AR-15s, piston guns, like 416, stuff like that, they handle the recoil just fine for 5.56. And when it comes to a blowback gun, because of what I mentioned earlier, the weight of the bolt holding the pressures of that cartridge, it really only works in pistol calibers. If you try to do a blowback style of system in a bigger gun, then you're gonna end up running into like a really heavy bolt, because that bolt has to hold the pressure of 5.56. So as you're increasing in the pressures, you're also increasing in the weight of the bolt and the weight of the gun overall, and it just becomes impractical. So that's why you wouldn't have a gun like this in 5.56. They offer the Vector in 9mm, 10mm, 40, Smith & Wesson, and of course 45. 45 was the first one, I believe, and then 9mm was the next one that came out. This is 9mm, and I think it's all right. Should you go out and buy a Vector? It's probably not the first gun you should buy, but if you got the money, a little throwaway, you got a little nostalgia, and you saw, I don't know, you played Black Ops, I just hit the mag release again. If you have a little nostalgia for the old Modern Warfare or Black Ops games, hey, you can go snag one, I guess. But I think they're kind of expensive for what they are, so if it were me, I would go in the secondhand marketplace. But that's pretty much the Vector. Kind of a bad review, but you know what? We're not known for our hardcore good reviews on this channel, all right? We're just here for the vibes. We have gone all in on vibes, and that's what we're doing in 2025. I do have another Black Ops 2 style of gun, so to speak, that we'll talk about, and I may even do a video where I talk a little bit more in depth about the guns of Black Ops 2, because it's interesting to look at what they got right and what they got wrong. I've covered it very briefly here, but maybe we can do a little video touching on more of that if you guys want. So without further ado, I appreciate you guys watching the video, and have a good rest of your day. The reason YouTubers always ask you to like and comment is because it helps tell the algorithm that this video is fun and engaging. So if you believe that, go ahead and like, leave a comment, and subscribe. The longer you watch the video and the more you interact with it, the more it's gonna push it to other people. If you're looking to support the channel, you can do it the free way, which is watch some of my videos and click through my other videos and let them play in the background and just run the clock. Or you can go to my website and buy a little merchandise that I got on there. It's a good time, it's fun. You can go to the Patreon, and I have a Discord that you can also join as well. And the Discord's actually pretty fun, so, you know, it's just what it is. The paywall for the Discord, it's gotta be there because there's a lot of weirdos out there. We need to have the paywall, all right? We're going to build the Discord and we're gonna have the weirdos pay for it, you understand? We don't want weirdos though, so don't come if you're a weirdo, all right?